This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Yud Tes, and we're holding on Yud Chesem and Beis, the second wide line, and we're middle of a Shaila of the Gemara. If you look up about 5 lines into the narrow lines, the Gemara asks, Yish ha'ada l'tzeiris or ein ha'ada l'tzeiris? And the question is that it's very core, likeren midamnin Allah, or is it told of the regel? To put that into English, we know that we have a din of sreiris, that when the animal damages and not with its body, but rather indirectly via itzrar, via a rack that shoots off the animal. The question is, if the animal does that 3 times, does now the animal become a muad, become a entity which is common to damage and therefore will be elevated to Nezik Shalim? Or not? Do we say it's like Karen and therefore it starts off as Chazi Nezek, but eventually we'll get to Nezik Shalim? Or do we say no, it is told to the regularly and therefore whatever it is, and if it started off as Chazi Nezek, it would stay that way. So says the Gemara on the second narrow line, continuing to try to bring a raya to what is the din in this case. Tashema behema sheitilu gelalim leisa. A behema that was matal gelalim, that he used the bathroom, leisa, on a dough, on a piece of bread, well, raw dough, obviously damaging it. Rav Yehuda Aimer, what is the din? Meshalim nezik shalim. Rav Lezer Aimer, what is the din? Chati nezik. So suggests the Gemara, what is at the core of this machlekes Rav Yehuda and Rav Eliezer? Rav Yehuda teaches nezik shalim, and Rav Lezer saying chati lezik. My love, the machlekes is going to avad tlasa zimni. That the case is that the behema, the animal, did this 3 times. And this machlekes Rav Yehuda and Rav Eliezer is our machlekes. Mar savar yeshada, mar savar einada. Rav Yehuda holds that there is a din of becoming a muad, and therefore after 3 times you pay nezek shalim. Whereas Rav Eliezer says no, even after 3 times you're still going to only pay chatzi nezek. Says the Gemara Loi. That is not the machlekes. Bechad zimna really only happened 1 time, so what's the machlekes? Ubeplukta de sumchas v'rabbanim kemiflegi, and the machlekes is between sumchas and the rabbanim. The classical machlekes, which as we mentioned in the previous year, we're always going to have this as a fallback. This will always be a, this will always be a fallback to say anytime we're going to have machlekes chadzi nezik nezik shalim, we're always going to have a fallback that we're able to say that the machlekes is whether you pay, machlekes is between sumchas and the rabbanim. Asks the Gemara, v'hamishanu. This is quite the abnormal case. Animals don't usually use the bathroom. Rashi says that in the teva of a behema is that it avoids using the bathroom on food, as it knows that it wants to eat the food. And therefore asks the Gemara, if it's abnormal, why would Rav Yehuda say on time number 1, you're paying nezik shalim? It's quite the strange case. So explains the Gemara, I apologize for the video issues over here, explains the Gemara, tidachik le alma. The case is referring to where the animal is confined to a very small area. Therefore, the only way the animal can use the bathroom is on this isa, on this dough, and that's the reason why it's not going to be considered mishana. Asks the Gemara, Rav Yehuda, why are Rav Yehuda and Rav Eliezer arguing about something that the Rabbanan and the Sumchas argued? And if they are, they should just say, I don't like Sumchas, and I don't like the Rabbanan. What are they doing over here? Seemingly parroting the same achleikas without telling us that that is the din. Says the Gemara, Galalim is shichlei. I'll tell you why. Because the chiddush of this machlekes of Yehuda and the Rabbanan is with regard to this entity of Galalim, regard to the fact that the animal is using the bath. Why? Explains the Gemara 4 lines from the bottom. I would have thought I would have thought that when the animal uses the bathroom, the galalim, is a chelek of the body, is coming out of the body and is drawn after the body. Why? Because it's coming from the body itself. And therefore, Kigufei dami. Therefore, it's considered like its body itself, and it's not sroirois. Kamash malan. The chedish of this entity gufa is that no, it is indeed a case of sroirois. So the Gemara concludes. We thought to try to bring a raya from this case, but the Gemara says no raya, as Rav Yehuda and the Rav Elazar could just be arguing about the regular din of Sukkos and the Rabbanan. Continues the Gemara, Tashima, 2 lines from the bottom. The Tani Rami Barcha Yecheskel. Rami Bar Yecheskel says, Tarnago, we have a chicken, Shayishaited Raishai, that sticks its head lavir klis chuches to the airspace of a metal klis. You got a chicken. Its head is sitting inside a glass vessel. What does the chicken do inside? It starts screaming. Vitaka. And this chicken screams or shrieks, makes a loud noise. By Vishavra, and it breaks the keli, breaks the glass from the scream. What's the halacha? Says the Brayse Mishalik Nezek Shalim. Rav Yosef Ami Rav, says Rav Yosef in the name of Rav. Excuse me. V'chamar shenar v'shibur sakilim. And a similar says, if a horse made noise or donkey made noise, what's the halacha? V'shibur sakilim on the last line. Then mishalim chati nazek. So we have a machlekes over here. Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel versus Rav Yosef Amri Bei Rav. What is the status when an animal damages via a noise? Do we say that you pay Nezik Shalem like the Tanakama, Tani Rav Yecheskel? Or do we say you pay Nezik Shalem like Rav Yosef Amri Bei Rav? Suggest the Gemara, what is this machlokes? My love, are we not referring to that the animal did this 3 times? And we turn over to Yutesam and Aleph, it suggests the Gemara, Ubaha kamifligi. And this is precisely the machlokes. What is the machlokes? Mar Savar. The Tanakama holds that you pay Nezik Shalem. Why? Yeshada. Umar Savar Inada. Gufa, the machlokes over here is, do we say Ha'ada Litzaris or not? Is this entity that the behema comes amud after happening 3 times, therefore you pay Nezik Shalem, or not? Says the Gemara Nacham Allahi, that's not the machlokes. B'chad Zimna, really it happened only 1 time. And they're arguing about Sochas and the Rabban. Ask the Gemara Nacham Al, what do you mean? This case is Mishana. This case is odd. Animals don't stick their heads into kelim and break them with their voice. So why would this be the machlokes? Whether you pay Nezik Shalem or Chatzi Nezek. And again, I apologize for the video issues. I don't know what's going on over here. Says the Gemara of Amishanahu. Explains the Gemara, the Isbe Bizrani. No, there's food inside the keli. If there's food in the keli, therefore it's quite normal for the animal to stick his head inside, and therefore it's not considered Mishanahu, and that is the machlokes. So we have not answered the shaila of Yesha Ada L'Tzeres or not, but the Gemara moves on with a new shaila 4 lines down, Yutesam and Aleph. Bai Ravashi Yeshinoi L'Tzeres L'Ravia Nezek, Oi Ein Shina L'Tzeres L'Ravia Nezek. Asks Ravashi, is there a case of Mishona by Yisraelis to the fact that you would have to pay, quote unquote, half damages, like a case of a Karen Tam, an animal, of course, the first time you pay half. So if you'd pay half of Yisraelis, what would that mean? That would mean you'd pay a quarter. So ask Ravashi, does such an entity exist or not? Says the Gemara, Tev Shalei Midei Rava. Let's bring a raya from Rava. Tebai Rava Yisha Adel Etzayrai. So Eina Adel Etzayrai, as we began today. Mechlal. From the Shaila of Rava, what do we see? From the Shaila itself, Ein Shinoi. We see that there's no Shinoi. Because Rava's whole Shaila was, do you say it goes from Chati Nezik to Nezik Shalim? Or not? But if there was a concept of Shina, if there's a concept of Rivia Nezek, the whole Shaila would never begin. Says the Gemara, no, maybe not. Dama Rava and Tim Salaymer Kamar. Maybe Rava's Shaila was on that set. In Tim Salaymer, if you could tell me, ain't Shinoi, that there's no Shinoi, meaning it starts at Chatzin Nezik and then it could go to Nezik Shalem. On that set, ask Rava, Yesha Adar Ina Ada, and says the Gemara Teku, we do not have an answer. And one final Shaila for the first part of today's Shiur, Bayi Ravashi Nachambal. Koyach koycha l'simchas ki koycha dami oy loy. Simchas said, Saras pays nezik shalit. So ask the Gemara, does Simchas only say that by tzraris? But what about if it's koyach koycha? It's one more step removed. Is that the same din or not? Mi gamer halacha umukila b'koyach koycha. Do we say that it's a halacha l'Moshe Missinai? Therefore, it applies across the board. Koyach, koyach, koycha, in all cases, Simchas holds nezik shalim. Says the Gemara, or maybe Simchas doesn't hold bechlal v'lach mashpinai. That's why he holds you pay nezik shalim. Says the Gemara, indeed, it is a good kasha. Teku, we're gonna have to wait for Mashiach, Eliyahu Navi b'siyat d'shemaya, to answer that one. And we continue. We're about 12 lines in Yotesam and Aleph at the two dots. Quoting the Mishnah, the regular case of Sarzi Bailu asking, ask the Gemara, how do you read Pashim Shad in the Mishnah? Do you read the animal is bayit, the animal is kicking and a damage via kicking, or a case of service being shut out in the regular way? Then you pay chati nezek, and the Mishnah is what? V'shitas v'rabbanani. Oidilmor, no, there's another way to read the Mishnah. It was kicking and a damage via the kicking. Or there's tzroiros that are shooting off due to the kicking, and in both of these cases, mishalem chatzi nezek. And in both of these cases, you pay chatzi nezek. And basically, the question is, do we say that the case of, let's see, the Gemara doesn't really understand the Shaila. Says the Gemara, Haki Orchei Mishalim Nezik Shalim. So the second way of learning the Shaila would be that if it was Orchei, if it was the normal way of Tzroiris, then what? Then you would pay Nezik Shalim. Meaning, do we only say Tzroiris via a biyut, via a kicking? That's when there's a Chatzi Nezik of Tzroiris. But then there's a higher level of Tzroiris. Tzroiris that can happen normally, which would pay Nezik Shalim. Umani Subchasi. So ask the Gemara, the fundamental reading of the Mishnah. The Mishnah dealt with two cases, Mivayates, Tzroiris. Ask the Gemara, is Tzroiris a extension of the biyut, of the abnormal way of the animal kicking? Meaning, but if it would not be a biyut, if it would be via a normal way, then it would indeed pay Nezik Shalim like Sumchas, or no, it's all the same and it always pays Chatzi Nezik. Says the Gemara, Tashamami Seifa. Let's bring a raya from the end of the Mishnah. Darsa ala klivish avrasai. The animal stepped on a utensil and broke it. Nafal hashever al kliacher. And the broken shard fell on a different klivish shavroi and broke it. So we have the domino effect over here. What's the halacha? Said the Mishnah, La Rishon Mishalim Nezik Shalem. The first, kli that animal stepped on, you pay Nezik Shalem. Valacharoin Chatzi Nezek. And then on the latter kli, you're going to pay Chatzi Nezek. So what is the Gemara proof? Says the Gemara, V'isomches mi'eslei Chatzi Nezek. Is there an entity of Chatzi Nezek? If it's somches, how could it be that the secondary damage is Chatzi Nezik? Simchas doesn't hold of Chatzi Nezik. Says the Gemara, maybe V'chitem Rishon Rishon La'ataza Usheni Sheni La'ataza. Maybe I'll tell you an interesting way to read the Mishnah, that when the Mishnah said Rishon Visheni, it didn't refer to the one the animal stepped on and the one that got shot off. No, first the one that got shot off, that's the Rishon, and then the next one is the Sheni. And then how would you read the Mishnah? And then the way to read the Mishnah would be that Sumchas would be differentiating between Koyach and Koyach. Koyach, the first one is Koyach, that's like Shalem. The second one is Koyach, Koyach, is Chasi Nezik. But then, Al Hada by Rav Ashi Koyach, Koyach, Sumchas, Rav Ashi Shaila that we learned at the top of the Amiki, Koyach, Dami, Alav, Koyach, Dami. And we didn't have an answer to that kasha, so if our Mishnah was indeed talking about that case, Tiv Shalei, we should have a right to Alav, Koyach, Dami. So says the Gemara, seemingly that wouldn't be the way to read the Mishnah, and it can't be that the Mishnah is Sumchas. Explains the Gemara, not necessarily. Rav Ashi kirabanan mukila, because Rav Ashi in his Shaila went like the Rabbanan, meaning really you could read the Mishnah like Sumchas. And how you learn this Heifa, you'll differentiate koyach, 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 koyach. The Shaila of Rav Ashi, that's not a kasha. Because Rav Ashi explained like the Rabbanan. Rav Ashi kirabanan mukila abayila hachi. Haisem ve'etes ve'izika ve'biuta. Oitzeres kerachayot chatzi nezek. Ha machlas biot revia nezek v'yeshinoi. That's where Rav Ashi would learn the Mishnah. The Rav Ashi can explain that it goes one step down. Teku, that was the Shaila of Rav Ashi. So again, another Shaila that the Gemara partially answers. The Gemara seems to prove that if it was Sumchas, there would be no Chatzi Nezek. The Gemara retorts and says, no, maybe we could have a way to explain a Rishon La'ataza, and Rav Ashi, that wouldn't be Shver. Continues the Gemara on the second wide line with another Shaila. Ba'i minei Rav Abba bar Marmel mi Rav Ami Ramel Rav Chia bar Abba Isa Mahal Leches b'Makayim sheyevshir la'alim kim minatezes uba'ata v'itiza v'izika mal. Says Rav Abba bar Marmel the following Shaila. The animal is walking. The animal is walking in an area that the only way that the animal can walk is that there are a lot of rocks, that it's going to invariably kick those rocks. And it does indeed and damages. What's the halacha in this case? What's the shayla? Says the Gemara. Do we say, Kivan di evshirla or chayu? Since there are so many rocks, and the only way to walk through is via damaging, therefore it's common, and therefore you'll pay nezek shalim, like a regular damage bikof. Oidilma no. Hashta miyas machlas biyot kaminatezes lamaisa. It's kicking it off, and it's like srairais. Therefore, it would be a potential chatzi nezek according to the Rabbanan. Says the Gemara again. Teku, we don't have an answer to the kasha. And the Gemara continues with another question. This is on the sixth wide line by Minir Rav Zira Isa Malach as Birshus Arabim V'Tiza Ve'Zika. It's walking in Rosh Hashanah, and something shoots off the animal's leg, and it damages Mahu. What's the Shaila Karmidam Lino Lavachayev? Is Domno told us the Regulu Patura. As we've learned already, different damagers are not Chayiv in Rosh Hashanah. So ask the Gemara, is this like Karen? And it is Chayiv. Or maybe it's like Regel, that's not going to be Chayiv because it's in Rosh Hashanah. Amar Lei responds the Gemara, Mistava told us the Regel who, it's going to be Regel and Potter. Continues the Gemara. But what about Titiz Rosh Hashanah, Vizika Rosh Hashanah Mahu? Ups the ante that what if the damage, the kicking, was in Rosh Hashanah, but the rock shot and damage in Rosh Hashanah. Amar Le, do we say Akira Inkan Anacha? Excuse me, Amar Le, he responds, Rav Zir responds, Akira Inkan Anacha Yishkan. There's no Akira. Can there be a Hanacha? Meaning, we just answered that you'd be Potter in Shus Rabim. Now you want to know if it shoots into Shus Yachid? You're Potter in Shus Rabim. You're Potter in Rishos HaYachid. Continues the Gemara, asking numerous kashas on this line of Rav Zera that says, Akira Ein Kan Hanacha Yeshkan. but by extension, it's going to be a kasha on the first part of Rav Zera, in which he said that we're being medame this to regal that would have a patur in Rosh Hashanah. The animal's walking in a rock, shoots off its leg, being Rosh Hashanah, chayiv. My love, he teaser Rosh Hashanah, and we see that the animal is chayiv, although you, Rav Zera, your first statement was it's told to the regal and it's potter. Lo, he says the Gemara, he teaser Rosh Hashanah, he's thinking Rosh Hashanah. I v'amer you Rav Zera said Akira ain't got enough ishkan. You said if you're potter is a rabbim, of course your potter is a yachid. So what would the difference be if it shoots into Rosh Yachid? Amar le hadri bi, and we're going to see this numerous times that Rav Zera was chayzer retracted from his second statement. He did hold that there is a patur of service in Rosh Rabbim, but in the second statement, when it goes and it shoots into Rosh Yachid, in that case, Rav Zera was masking that there is a chiyuv, as we'll see numerous times. Esvei asking again another case. Dar salakli, the animal steps on a kli, v'shav rasin breaks it, v'navala shav alakli acher. We have in our Mishnah, v'shav royal rishon v'shalim nazik shalem. V'alach ara mishan chazin nazek v'tani alarm. We learned that there's b'med v'ar mamurim. What is the case? Bershos hanizik, and the damage each property of a bershos arabim. But if it was in bershos arabim, al rishon ptura, al acharoin chayeves. Says the Gemara, if it's in Rosh Hashanah, the first one it stepped on its potter because you're damaging in Rosh Hashanah, like damaging in Rosh Hashanah, which is no din of regular Rosh Hashanah. But the second one, when it shoots off, then you're going to be chayiv. My love, says the Gemara, Taza Rosh Hashanah, Vizika Rosh Hashanah, and therefore it's a kasha fundamentally on Rav Zera who said it's told to the regular in your potter. Lo, it's not a kash on the first din. He teaches just around me. He should say yachid. I v'amr Rav Zera said Akira ain't got enough yishkan. Amar lei Haji B Rav Zera was chayzer from the second din, meaning if it does go in damage to a yachid, Rav Zera is a maskim, there will be a chiyuv. Eini asked the Gemara, is this true? As we turn over to Yudasam and Beis, a third kash on Rav Zera. The Amar Rav Yechanan says Rav Yechanan. Ein chatzi nezek haluk. Chatzi nezek does not change aloi. What is this statement of Rav Yechanan mean, my love? It suggests the Gemara. Hey, teaser just a rabbin, and what do we see? We see that there's going to be no difference in din, just like there's a patur in the first case in Rosh Hashanah, the same patur will exist in Rosh Hashanah, not like Rav Zera was just chayzer, that if it goes in damages in Rosh Hashanah, there will be a chiyuv. Says the Gemara, like no kasha, like he teaches Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. Excuse me. First, we're asking, isn't it all in Rosh Hashanah? And Rav Zera said, you're put in Rosh Hashanah. Says Gemara, lo, he teaches Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. I v'amr the same kasha here. Ain't got enough. Yesh got amr lei hadri b. So 3 kashas on Rav Zera, and 3 times Rav Zera said he was chayzer that if it damages just a yachid, he's maskim. Then there is a chiyuv. Hidribi. Iba Yisema, 6 lines down. You testament base. Another teretz. Ki amar Rav Yechon Akeren. Rav Yechon might not have been talking all about tzeres. Rav Yechon's whole din was about Karen, and therefore there will be no kasha. But again, from the first 2 kashas on Rav Zera, we do conclusively have a raya that Rav Zera was indeed chayzer. Continues the Gemara with a new shaila, 7 lines down, New Testament piece. Yasir Rav Yehuda Nesiya Rav Aishia Kalaid Rav Yehuda Nafik Milsa Mibenayu. Rav Yehuda Nesiya. Well, let's just read what the case is. Kishkisha biznava mahu. What is the status of the animal? Damages with its tail. Just going to highlight a few lines down. We're going to have a shaila of Kishka Ba'amasa Mahu, a very similar shaila. So Rav Yehuda Nesiya Rav Aishia went to visit Rav Yehuda, and the following din came out from amongst them. If the animal, while it was damaging, was wagging its tail and damages, ma dinai. Says the Gemara, what do you think? You have to hold the animal's tail as you walk? How can you suggest such a thing? Says the Gemara, Karenami. What do you mean? Why don't you say by Karen also? Name of Karen v'yelech. What? I should hold the animal's horn and damage? And we know that's not true. We know there's a chiyuv of Karen. Says the Gemara, what's your kasha? Karen lavor chiyuv. It's normal for the animal to damage with its tail as it walks. So what was the kasha? Kishkush yisera mi baile. The shaila was if the animal it was an excessive wagging of its tail, it wasn't the norm. That was the shaila. Continues the Gemara. Bayi ravina kishkush ba'amasa mahu. A male animal with its male organ damaged also by it was wagging as it was walked. Mi amrina, do we say midav Karen? Karen alav yitzuk atakivle hachanami loishna. Do we say it's the same thing as Karen, just like in the case of Karen? It's not that it had a particular urge, it's just orchev the animal to gore. So too in such a scenario over here. Karen kavanasa lahazik. Says the Gemara Teku. Interesting, in the first one of Kishkush be Yisera, we didn't really have any answer. Over here we say Teku. And we continue. We're about 14 lines down, the two dots. The Mishnah said that a tarnagol is a muad, it's normal to damage as it is walking into break. Then the Mishnah discussed a second case with a utensil tied onto the leg of the animal. Such a case, it only pays chatzi nezek. Amar Rav Huna lo yishanu. This din of chatzi nezek in the Mishnah is only ella shenikasher me'elav. It's only if the pail got attached to the chicken by itself. Aval kashrei adam chayiv. But if a person went and tied this pail onto the chicken, then you're chayiv. Why? Because then it's just like the chicken itself, and it's normal to damage, and you pay nezek shalim. Says Gemara, 1 second. Nikasher me'ilav, if the pail got tied onto its own to the animal, man chayiv, who is one that's obligated. Ile mabala delil, the owner of the pail. Hechidami. What exactly is the case? If the owner of the pail hid away his pail, the chicken somehow found it, got caught up onto its leg, and then did damage, what does the owner of the pail do wrong? And if the owner of the pail did not put away his pail properly, his bucket, then he was negligent. So what is the case? Says the Gemara, Ella, you know what the case is? Chayiv barla a tarnigol. So says the Gemara, why don't the owner have to pay full damages? That if a man opens up a pit, and from there we darshan that the obligation of bar damaging in Rosh Hashanah is only v'lo shar bar, and not if the shar opens up the pit. And this is going to be a case which is similar to a shar opening up a pit, the tarnagol getting caught up in a deli, in a pail, and doing damage. Chatzi nazik nami, says Gemara. What do you mean? By chatzi nazik, we find the same psukim of ishbar v'loy sharbar. Ella, says the Gemara, you're right. You know what's going on over here, and with this we're going to conclude. We'll stop at the Mishnah. Masnisam b'dayuye aduye. The Mishnah is referring to when it says you pay chatzi nazek, that the chicken, things flew off of the chicken. Meaning, the pail shot off of the chicken and did damage. So it's a case of Swearis. And when did Rav Huna say? Rav Huna said it didn't stam about being kosher and like kosher. Talil hefker, and we conclude, says the Gemara, what if the talil was hefker? Rav Huna on that. This is where Rav Huna said his din randomly. Nikasha meila patikisha adam chayiv mishamay chayiv. Rav Huna bar minayach misham bayray hamisgalgel, because it's a case of a bar, of a pit that's rolling around, baragli adam ragli behema, and that's the reason why there's going to be a chayiv, but only on a deli of hefker. We'll pick it up from the Mishnah on the next year, b'siyata dishmaya.